Good morning, and welcome to the weekly multi-platform service of Tri-County Unitarian Universalists based in Summerfield, Florida. I'm getting a little feedback. We acknowledge that we occupy the ancestral, traditional, and contemporary lands of the indigenous Florida peoples. I am Pat Felton, today's service leader. Hello to our members and friends, and a special welcome to those who might be visiting here for the first time. Unitarian Universalists are united not by a creed of shared beliefs, but by a covenant of shared values. We celebrate that we do not need to think alike to love alike. It is our respect and encouragement of each other's diversity of thought that truly binds us together. For the curious and for the seekers, Unitarian Universalist values and covenant may be found on your order of service and at our website, triuu.org. Our newsletter, included in the timetable, can also be found there under News and Events. We have announcements, but please, first, mute your phone and place it in airplane mode. Thank you. Today is the fourth Sunday of the month. As such, please stick around for fellowship and our monthly bagel brunch after the service. Today is also your last chance to sign up for New to UU. Join the Reverend Kristina and Helene for our class this Tuesday, August 26th from 10 to 12:30. We'll explore the values and beliefs of Unitarian Universalism and introduce you to our local congregation. This is a great opportunity for newcomers or for anyone seeking to deepen their understanding. To sign up for the class, please add your name to the list in the corner of the room by the bookcases or see Helene. Next Sunday, August 31st, is the fifth Sunday special collection for trade school scholarships. Tri-UU has previously provided financial assistance for those seeking career training. Your contributions make a difference for these students. Cash donations or checks written to Tri-UU with scholarships on the memo line will be accepted. And the 2025 Tri-County and the Villages Walk to End Alzheimer's is happening on Saturday, October 4th at Ski Beach Park in Leesburg. And the Tri-UU Love Bugs are ready to make a difference again. We need walkers to join us, and of course donations to support the cause. So if you can't walk, you can, reach in your pocket and do that generosity thing. Last year we proudly raised $3,000, and this year we're aiming to beat that goal, but we can't do it without you. We're also working on carpooling options to make it easy for everyone to participate, so don't let transportation stop you from being part of something so meaningful and fun. Want to join the team or learn more? Contact Liz, there she is, Purdue, and she's ready to get you lined up. This concludes our announcements, and as we now begin the service proper, we will recite our vision statement. Please join with your voice as we recite together. We will be an influential voice for progressive religious values in a diverse community. Our chalice keeper today is Barbara Woodson. We invite those of you joining us on Zoom to light your chalice at home.
Good morning. If that train had been a little longer, you wouldn't have a chalice reader this morning. We will never have a true civilization until we have learned to recognize the rights of others. Will Rogers.
know some of you know. I am appreciating having space to hopefully talk with my hands consistently throughout the service today. Good morning. Our opening words today come from Gretchen Haley. This is Grace Meets Us Where We Are. There is nothing you need to bring with you to be welcome here. No right beliefs or proof of citizenship. No eternal optimism or clarity of conviction. No boundless courage or endless expertise. You do not need to know what brought you here or how you will solve that problem you are turning over and over and over in your mind. Your bills do not need to be paid, and your checkbook can be a mess. Your children may have been up half the night. Your hearing aids may not be working, and your knees may be creaking. You do not need to be already perfect or even halfway to belong in this circle where grace meets us where we are, but does not leave us as it found us. Where love resides in each of us, yet is somehow more than all. Where life still pulses and rages and heals and transforms, creating us and this day anew once again. Come, let us worship together. If you would please rise and lift your voice in song with me for our opening hymn, As We Come Marching, Marching. And Tom has asked me to lead the songs today, so hopefully we will not all regret that choice later in the service. Thank you. So our story today is Green Like the Wind. We're going to get this mic worked out. Green Like the Wind by Julie Simon. In a bay of the North Sea in the middle of Denmark on an island called Samsa, if I have the Danish wrong, forgive me. The wind blows and blows. On this windy island lived a man named Soren Hermansen. He farmed some land and played guitar in a band, but mostly he thought about the planet. On the island also lived fishermen and dentists, shopkeepers and ferry boat drivers, teachers and electricians, and, of course, children. The children loved to fly kites on the windy beach of the island. The people of Samsa were ordinary in many ways, especially when it came to thinking about and using energy. They drove cars that ran on gasoline. To power their lights, they used electricity carried by a big underground cable from the mainland. And during the long, cold nights of winter, they kept their homes toasty warm with oil brought to Samsa from giant tankers. All of Samsa's energy had to be made somewhere off the island. Then one day, thinking about energy on Samsa became extraordinary. The island was picked to be the energy demonstration project by the government of Denmark. From that day forward, Samson would work to use green energy and create all of its energy right on the island, local energy, as much as possible. Now, Soren Hermansen, the man who thought a lot about the planet, knew making green energy locally would be less polluting for the island, Denmark, and the planet. He became Samsa's champion for green energy. So he brought lots of people together to figure out greener ways to save energy and to make energy on their very own island of Samsa. At first, many of the grown-ups on the island were not convinced it could be done. They thought green, locally created energy would cost too much money. They thought it would take too much time out of their already. They thought it would be just too hard and too much trouble. What could they do on such a small island? But Soren Hermansen did not give up. He knew his country had a long history of cooperative community projects, so he continued to get people together. He asked the children for their ideas. He asked the grown-ups for their ideas. He asked the big ideas and little ideas. What about riding bicycles instead of driving cars? Someone suggested. What about collecting energy from the sun? How about using all the wind that we have on the island? After several years of thinking and talking, a few residents decided it was time to start doing. One person put up a small turbine in the backyard to make electricity. Another invested money to build a huge wind turbine. Then he sold the wind-powered electricity to the power company, who connected it to the homes on Samsa. Finally, Samsa had 2 green energy projects. The island residents still used plenty of polluting power from other places, but it was a good start. Then one winter night, an icy storm shut off electricity on Samsa altogether. All the lights went out and everywhere was dark, except the house with its own backyard wind turbine. It continued to whoosh, whoosh through the storm. After that, a lot more people on Samsa got serious about green energy sources from right on the island. Some people installed solar panels on their farms. Someone built a biomass furnace to burn straw from the fields rather than oil. And someone invented a way to make tractor fuel from plants that grow on the island instead of using gasoline. More and more people jumped in and figured out what they could do to contribute to green energy right on Samsa. Many pooled their money to build more big wind turbines. Today, and this was written in 2015, there are 20 wind turbines on the island and in the sea around it to help power Samsa and even give extra green energy back to the mainland of Denmark. Now, this piece was written in 2015, and today from the website it says, the island of Samsa has completely transformed its energy system from fossil fuels to renewable energy, becoming the world's first renewable energy island. Key results that have been achieved include becoming carbon negative, 100% local ownership of renewable energy investments, and significant socioeconomic benefits from the energy transition. If you're curious about green energy and would like to learn more, I would invite you to think about attending next month's first of the year forum and potluck, where Susan Elwell, who is a friend of this congregation, will be speaking about solar panels and other green energy, including the ones that will be installed here shortly. Now, as we move deeper into our service, let us turn inward to consider transitions, the joys, sorrows, and concerns that we all experience in our life's journeys. There are 3 bowls of stones of different colors representing the gratitudes of joy, the griefs of sorrow, and whatever feeling you're having related to your concerns. After those present have placed stones in the water, our ushers will place stones from each of the bowls into the water on behalf of those who are not present with us in the building and those who have chosen not to or who are unable to come forward. Those online are invited to type into the chat to express what is on your heart. When all the stones have been mingled in the water, we will take a moment for silent meditation or prayer. You may now come forward. Let us take a moment now to reflect on our own joys, sorrows, and concerns, and those of others in this beloved community. As the sound of chimes will bring us back into this space in a moment, we will sing our response this month, which is Spirit of Life, for which you may remain seated. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. When the wind rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
If you're visiting us for the first time, please do not feel obligated to give. You are our guests, and we are very happy to have you here with us today. This is the time in our service when those who wish to make some monetary contribution to the congregation's vision and mission give to support this community and its outreach. If you're putting cash in the basket that you want credited to your pledge, please put the cash in a brown envelope with your name on the front. Envelopes are available on the table at the back of the sanctuary. I invite the ushers to come forward.
Served. This is an excerpt. is an excerpt. I think it's just me. Oop, there we go. Okay. This is an excerpt from the Reverend Dr. Kendall Gibbons, one of our foremost humanist thinkers in Unitarian Universalism, from her 2006 UU World Peace titled, Human Reverence, the Language of Reverence is the Language of Humanity. Some in the humanist community find traditional religious language so defiled by irrationality as to be deemed unusable. I believe, on the contrary, that we need not, nor even can we, invent a new vocabulary of reverence out of whole cloth. If we are to have a deep engagement with the challenges of our own time, we need an awareness of our historical context, a recognition of our foibles and finitude, as well as our anguish and triumph, as they are reflected across the ages of human experience. To think that we must dispense with all traditional language, symbols, and concepts in order to speak about that which is deepest and dearest, the precious source of human good, is to assume that no human beings were ever before so clever, so profound, or so committed as we are. That those who have been down the path of life before us have no wisdom to teach, that we can learn nothing from all that they have left us. One of the things that most reliably draws out of me a feeling of deep respect mixed with wonder, fear, and love is the knowledge that I am not alone in this enterprise. We are not the first to journey on this path, to lose our words in the presence of mystery and power. The awe and gratitude, the affirmation and praise go back generations and centuries to the first dawning of human consciousness. What we feel on the shores of the ocean or the mountain heights is no special insight of our own. It is the common heritage of the human race. There is nothing so petulant as to throw away what our ancestors have tried to pass on to us in stories and stones, in scriptures and songs, in rituals and prayers, because we think that we, in our adolescent hubris, know better now. Who can stand in the shadow of the great pyramids, or the radiant light and soaring stone of the Cathedral of Chartres? Who can listen to the deep cadence of the Book of Common Prayer fall sonorous on the ear and not realize in the very fiber of our being that our wonder and our hunger and our terror and even our most valiant yes to life are not ours alone, but echo down the ages of the whole human race. I was invited to speak at the Humanist Club of the Villages last week and spoke mostly about the intersections of Unitarian Universalism and humanism and our ongoing relationship. This is an abbreviated version of that talk. A link will be available in the upcoming newsletter. If you were with me last week for this talk, hopefully you'll enjoy it a second time. Do we remember the joke about who we pray to whom it may concern? As Unitarian Universalists, this is funny for at least 3 reasons. It's always better when you explain the joke, right? So 1, that we hold various beliefs and don't tell anyone to whom they should pray or if they should. 2, that we don't pretend to know what deity may be out there for us to communicate with. And 3, that we are probably as likely to write a letter to the editor or some other such thing as we are to pray. It also points to the fact, probably regardless of to whom we might pray, that there is always a connection to a need for action in this life that only humans can make happen. We don't rely on God, if there is one or more, to do the work that we need to do to care for ourselves and each other. This is a long-standing part of our heritage on both sides, even for those of us who do believe in a or God, goddess, or gods and goddesses. There is probably rarely any expectation of a supernatural intervention of any kind. We UUs are generally civic-minded people seeking to help build the beloved community, in the words of Martin Luther King Jr. Some of this thinking for us traces all the way back to our ancestor John Murray, considered a, or often the, founder of Universalism in America. He arrived on the colony's shores in 1770. As a Universalist, Murray believed that when we die, we all go to heaven. And so he believed, among other things, that if we are meant to spend an eternity together with our family, friends, and neighbors, we should probably get started in this life as practice for that. It's generally agreed on that Unitarianism was a primary birthing ground for humanism as we have understood it in this last century. Unitarianism and Universalism always danced around each other before consolidating in 1961. Now, Unitarian Universalism and humanism seem to dance around each other similarly. Not to say that I think that humanism will re-merge with Unitarian Universalism, but in the way that groups or communities of similar-ish beliefs and values will always be in relationship with one another. I loved looking at the AHA, the American Humanist Association's website, to see how they are defining themselves these days. And while there is one approved definition, there are two good handfuls of others listed, and I laughed in recognition. We UUs are equally challenging to pin down. And then their opening statement that humanism has an impressive history. Humanism is definitely the child of Unitarian Universalism. Of course, this is helpful when mapping lineages and relationships, but humanism has grown in the last century to very much be its own self. And as such, we continue to have not only things in common, but wisdom that we can draw from each other. I do use the word God sometimes, but I don't believe in traditional understandings of God. My own belief is in the vein of process relational theology, which suggests an understanding that God is in all of life in the universe, and all of us participate in making God with each action or inaction we make, that we are co-creating God just as we make the world that we live in together, that God is in the spaces between us and the impulses toward the good or better. I sometimes refer to God as that which is greater than we are, not meant to be understood as a being, but more like a feeling. I believe that there's a beautiful magic that can happen when people come together and share time and intention. I think about the energy and the power generated at major concerts. I love seeing clips of concerts and videos, and I can just feel it into my bones. I also remember class in seminary, we had international guests, and one was Hindu, and she told us about how powerful an experience she had doing a pilgrimage walk to the Ganges with 1 million other people, surrounded and held in a deep, abiding love. I believe something does move in Quaker meetings. Those are examples of how I understand God. We don't have language for many things that are beyond our knowing or feeling, and sometimes we have too many words for those things. Sometimes our words point toward something that is beyond description. While it can be frustrating, I think it's also a beautiful reminder of our humanness. There's a quote I've long liked from the late Episcopal Bishop John Shelby Spong. He said, "God is not a Christian, God is not a Jew or a Muslim or a Hindu or a Buddhist. All of those are human systems which human beings have created to try to help us walk into the mystery of God. I honor my tradition, I walk through my tradition, but I don't think my tradition defines God. I think it only points me to God." What I appreciate about this idea is that it honors the fact that none of us knows anything about what lies beyond us for sure, but that we can each find ways that seem right to us to do that honoring. That we are all trying to be in relationship with something important. That the point isn't about being right, but being in relationship with that which is greater than we are and each other in a way that gives each person respect and care. Some people love science and think that it will eventually prove everything and tell us all the truth with a capital T. I guess that's nice if that's comforting for you. I do love science, but I also appreciate not knowing or understanding all things. I love that there is mystery in the world. It reminds me to be reverent of this life, this world. When I talk about the place of Unitarian Universalism in history, which is one of the primary lenses I use as someone trained as a historian, I talk about how Unitarian Universalism is perhaps the logical end of Protestantism in some ways, that we protested so hard that we left Christianity. That doesn't mean that Christianity hasn't left its mark on us. It certainly has, as it should have, as both historical halves of our faith come from Christian traditions. But it also doesn't mean that we're better than Christians. It just means that we've grown out from Christianity in an organic way. But like Christianity took centuries to more fully extract itself from Judaism, so are we in a place of extracting ourselves more fully from Christianity. When asked to describe Unitarian Universalism, especially in Christian contexts, I say that we come from Christian traditions but are no longer bound by them. Over the course of several recent years, Unitarian Universalists have had conversations about how we might re-envision our faith to include not just who we are today, but who we want to be as we grow and change. So during our annual national gathering in 2024 to do the business of the Unitarian Universalist Association, which we call General Assembly, a final vote was taken to transition us from what were formerly known as the 7 Principles to a covenant of shared values. Change is hard for all of us and no less for UUs, even though we call our faith a living tradition. We continue to be a people committed more to deeds, not creeds. Despite our continued great affection for written words and sometimes exhaustive conversation, we do try to orient ourselves more toward action than talk. Our new values are justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, and generosity, all centered on a liberating love. The values are all interconnected with one another and work together to help guide us in the practice of our faith. Liberating love is a love that is so big and generous, like that idea of God mentioned earlier, so great and beyond human understanding that it calls us to live into the world more gently, more patiently, more boundaried, more righteously, to expand our freedoms and to eradicate the suffering of the marginalized, to lift us all up and hold us through all challenges and difficulties. As a living tradition, this is one way that we live into that belief by engaging with questions about who we are and how we live and make our way in this broken world. I want to mention briefly, specifically, the idea of pluralism. Our updated bylaws say this: we celebrate that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. We covenant to learn from one another in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We embrace our differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect. Pluralism isn't about agreement or disagreement per se, but more about being together and committed to that togetherness and relationship. Disagreements are expected. We are humans. We will sometimes, even often, disagree. The point is that we work through or past those disagreements. We are a covenantal faith. Our covenants are how and maybe why we keep working through our disagreements. They're commitments, agreements to journey together in this life and figure out not only how to keep choosing each other, but how to do so ever more in love. Humanism was initially begun as an alternative religion, and there are those who identify as both secular and religious humanists. Charles Francis Potter, ordained as a Unitarian minister, founded the first Humanist Society of New York in 1927 and wrote a book titled Humanism, A New Religion, openly rejecting traditional Christian beliefs. Of course, in 1927, the world was not even a decade out from the Great War, what turned out to be World War I, and people everywhere were struggling with what had happened in that war. Apart from the carnage of war in general, that war was particularly brutal, and the terrain covered was often very small. Unfortunately, that war also saw the introduction of chemical warfare with the creation of mustard gas. It burns the skin, but in contact with the eyes and mucous membranes can lead to blindness and other disabilities. But it's the contact with the lungs that makes it so dangerous and often results in pulmonary and heart failure. Submarines, machine guns, tanks, planes, and radio communications were also introduced in this war. Civilians were massacred. Genocide occurred in different areas. The scale of devastation was so massive and worse than people had reasonably expected to be able to inflict on one another. Punishment for Germany for its aggression during the war was severe. The landscape was devastated across at least Western Europe due to the financial reparations required by the Allies, the victors of the war, if there is such a thing, by the German government. The nation went through a period of hyperinflation. People would have wheelbarrows full of money to try for the most basic necessities. At one point, it cost 1 million marks to mail a letter. People started using money to wallpaper their bathrooms. All of this on the backs of generations of questioning the relationship between religion and science. One particular way that this took shape was with the Transcendentalist movement in the early and mid-1800s, featuring the work of Unitarian ancestors: Henry David Thoreau, Margaret Fuller, Ralph Waldo Emerson, William Ellery Channing, James Freeman Clarke, and Theodore Parker. Transcendentalism emphasized literature, philosophy, free thinking, reason, and intellect, but also emotion. They saw the divine in the everyday world. They were also influenced by Asian and Middle Eastern religious thought, including Hinduism and Sufism. Transcendentalism came out of the Unitarian movement and ran parallel to it, both within and without our faith. So that was the setting in which humanism began to emerge in the early 1900s. In the first Humanist Manifesto, there's a tone and blatant naming of supersessionism, the idea that one religion is meant to replace one or more others. This is a problematic pattern in Christianity, which is often supersessionist in its beliefs in relationship with Judaism specifically. There's a vibe that somehow, like science, religion builds off of other beliefs and moves in one trajectory, that onward and upward forever. It's been a problem for us in Unitarian Universalism too, for sure. It is not uncommon, sadly, for some of our people to assume a place of intellectual superiority when it comes to faith. That our faith's broad strokes humanist tendencies are better than those of people who have a belief in a or God, goddess, or gods and goddesses. We struggle with this legacy. I find it pretentious and offensive. While there are ways that different theologies and their religions can be problematic, I can assure you that Unitarian Universalism has also had its faults, and more simply, isn't for everyone. This superiority also creates barriers that prevent us from community building across religions. And the truth is, regardless of how much we love our faith and perhaps believe it to be the best, we need each other to have any shot at making it in this life. As a person of faith, as ordained clergy, and as a former hospital chaplain, I don't accept the view that conservative Christianities are inherently bad. While I will also be the first to reject Christian nationalism and certainly don't agree with Christian evangelicalism or fundamentalism, I refuse to believe that my faith is necessarily right for people who identify that way. I have witnessed people with mental illnesses and histories of trauma and marginalized people, for example, who needed the comfort of structure, assurance, and clarity on any number of issues that our faith simply cannot provide. Not that everyone who believes in those frames is mentally ill or traumatized or marginalized. People find their faith to be a source of comfort and of meaning. It helps them orient themselves in the world, and we all deserve that, even when we don't agree with it ourselves. Some people may also just not want to think about it. Living in the world is full of the need to think about things, and some people just want to be held and loved. And they may or may not get that from the breadth of their theology, but they may get it from their churches and or their pastors. It can be nice to be told what to do or believe. If you're not Unitarian Universalist, we're not into that. Our covenants, which invite us to remember our values of justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, and transformation, all founded on a liberating love, are part of a practice far older than our faith that goes back all the way to the Pilgrims and the Puritans. They had conversations, sometimes for years. We come from a long legacy of long conversing people about how to be together in the colonized territory. This also shows up in our polity, the way that our congregations function internally and among themselves. We are congregationalists because, of course, we are, meaning that each congregation is meant to be able to make its own decisions about who leads, how that is decided, how decisions are made in congregations, and so on. Our hierarchy is flat compared to high church traditions like Catholicism and Episcopalianism. We are generally not a people who like to be told what to do, so we decide together how we will be. We Unitarian Universalists are celebrating the 200th anniversary this year of the American Unitarian Association, and Universalism in this country is even older. But their legacies are both rich and continue to be life-affirming for us all. If you would please rise and lift your voice in song with me for our closing hymn, We Laugh, We Cry.
Feel the freedom.
just to have some time alone. But most of all, we need close friends we can call our very own. And we believe in life and in the strength of love, and we have found a need to be together. We have our hearts to give, we have our thoughts to receive, and we believe that sharing is an answer. A child is born among us, and we feel a special glow. We see time's endless journey as we watch the baby grow. We thrill to hear imagination freely running wild. We dedicate our minds and hearts to the spirit of this child, and we believe in life and in the strength of love, and we have found a time to be together. And with the grace of age, we share the wonder of youth, and we believe that growing is an answer. Our lives are full of wonder, and our time is very brief. The death of one among us fills us all with pain and grief. But as we live, so shall we die, and when our lives are done, the memories where we shared with friends, they will linger on and on. And we believe in life and in the strength of love, and we have found a place to be together. We have the right to grow, we have the gift to believe that this within our living is an answer. One more. We seek elusive answers to the questions of this life. We seek to put an end to all the waste of human strife. We search for truth, equality, and blessed peace of mind. And then we come
Barbara Woodson will now read our chalice extinguishing message.
The Great Colossus by Emma Lazarus. Not like the brazen giant of Greek fame, with conquering limbs astride from land to land. Here at our sea-washed sunset gates shall stand a mighty woman with a torch, whose flame is the imprisoned lightning, and her name, Mother of Exiles. From her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome. Her mild eyes command the air-bridged harbor that twin cities frame. Keep, ancient lands, your storied pomp, cries she with silent lips. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shore, send these, the homeless, the tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door.
Thank you, Barbara. I invite anyone who has just begun to visit with us and who wishes to do so to introduce themselves. Please raise your hand and an usher will bring a microphone to you. Please keep the microphone close to your mouth so that we can hear you better.
I belong to Nature Coast UU over in Citrus Springs, but we don't meet in August, so I've been traveling to other UUs that I would like to visit, but normally I don't because we have a very vibrant and interesting program at our UU. So very nice to be here.
Welcome. Any other guests that would like to introduce themselves? Okay, thank you. If you'd like to receive regular communications on upcoming Tri-UU events, please take and fill out a guest card which will be available at the door after the service. A reminder that Tuesday there will be a class for those wanting to know more about Tri-UU. Please sign up at the table in the back of the room. If you can't or don't want to wait till Tuesday to ask your questions, please see Andrea at the table after the service. There's Andrea back there. Is it the question lady or the answer lady? I think it's the answer lady. Yeah, perfect. We are interested to hear how you experienced this hybrid worship service and or what you took away from the sermon. Please keep comments brief and on topic. No announcements, please. For those who are virtual via Zoom, raise your hand and speak or type your comment in the chat box. For those here in the gathering space, please raise your hand. If there is time, I will call on you to indicate that an usher will bring you a microphone. Please share your name and keep the microphone close to your mouth so that we can hear you better. If you wish to be seen on the monitors by those attending on Zoom, please stand directly in front of the pulpit.
Hi, you can tell I'm shaping at the bit to ask my question and comments on keep it brief. My name's Liana.
Try tap.
My name is Liana.
Excellent.
And I'd like to thank you for explaining the concept of God the way that you see it. My husband, who considers himself a humanist because they say good without God. Now let me explain, because he was raised as a Catholic, as I understand about 50% of our membership has been, and he was forced as a child to serve Stations of the Cross very early in the morning, 5 a.m., because he was raised by his mom, who was a devout Catholic, because he lost his dad at age 5. So she thought, get these, he and his brother, actually. So I just thank you for pointing out the differences and the similarities between those two religions. And I always get a history lesson every week. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Maria, and when you were talking about that feeling of people being together in concerts, and thank you very much for that, because I feel that, but I never saw it put in words. And then when we were singing the last hymn, I could feel that right here, right between us, that feeling of energy, synergy, and closeness. So, Tom, no, I just thinking that there are some hymns that we feel like that. That's one of them. There is the Blue Boat Home, and several hymns that, first of all, we know how to sing. That helps us. And that brings that feeling. So, more of that.
Funny thing is I just wrote that down in the choir.
Oh,
Tom and then Andrew. Go ahead, Tom.
Hi, Tom. I also was thinking during that song that you just sang.
Try and tap it. No. There we go.
Red light on. The light on. No, it's not. Oh, all right. Anyway, again, during that song, I couldn't help but think about the person that wasn't here, and that's Jerry. And that song included him in our group.
As long as we're talking about songs, when we were done singing this song, I turned to Tom and said, this is one of the best songs this congregation has, because you could feel the energy. So I encourage you, Tom, and the choir and the rest to keep in alignment with the songs that give us that spirit of belonging.
It's not a hymn exactly, but as we come marching, and I forget the history, and it has something to do with the women's movement, but it's also a union song, isn't it? And it is so powerful, and especially the line towards the end, what is, as women rise, we all rise. But it's not just women, it's all marginalized, whether the LGBTQ community or peoples of color or whatever. It's when we rise, when they rise, we all rise. So let's keep marching. But we have to learn that song.
Yeah. My name is Cindy, and I just wanted to say, when I was early in my journey looking for some kind of religion, and the reason was because I started working very young at a Catholic university, and I admired what they did, and I admired liberation theology, and admired that the social justice mission was so strong. They were going to El Salvador, going to Nicaragua, being with the people who needed them, always being on the side of the marginalized. But I wasn't Catholic, because you talked about hierarchy, and I couldn't deal with that much hierarchy, particularly a patriarchal hierarchy. So I had to search for something. So in New York City, WQXR was the radio station of the New York Times, but there was also a classical music station that I had on frequently. And every Sunday night, they would alternate between humanism and Unitarian Universalism. It was a it was a service that Sunday that they would rebroadcast. And I listened very intently. Am I a humanist or am I a Unitarian Universalist? And it took me a while to come to my conclusion. I actually started attending some of the services as well. But the thing that really got me was something you mentioned in the beginning in your quote, your opening reading, was, the reverence of the language. For me, I think both are very valuable. The ideas are very valuable. My intellectual self comes to both traditions. But the reverence of the language, the lighting of a chalice, the hymns like, we laugh, we cry, these are the things that give me that extra oomph about, we can be together and have this sort of sacred time. And I know my humanist friends hate the word sacred, they hate the word worship, they hate the word faith. I gone through all of that stuff with them. But there's something special about it too. So don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, I always say. So I really appreciate you bringing that home for me today. Thank you.
Our closing words today are from Andrea Hawkins Kemper. This is Be About the Work. May we see all as it is, and may it all be as we see it. May we be the ones to make it as it should be. For if not us, who? If not now, when? This is answering the cry of justice with the work of peace. This is redeeming the pain of history with the grace of wisdom. This is the work we are called to do, and this is the call we answer now. To be the barrier and the bridge, to be the living embodiment of our values, to be about the work of building the beloved community, to be a people of intention and a people of conscience.
Once again, thanks for the great music. Join us for our bagel breakfast and fellowship in the back of the room until 11. If you want a bit more to eat and more time to visit, there is a sign-up sheet on the table near the bookshelves to coordinate with others who like to go out for brunch. The Zoom room will stay open for 20 minutes.